Two governments that have not spoken directly in 47 years are sitting across a table from each other today. They are meeting inside a heavily secured, completely vacated hotel in Islamabad, Pakistan. Since the Iranian Revolution severed ties in 1979, the relationship has been defined by a hostage crisis, multiple proxy wars, and deep mutual suspicion. Over the last month and a half, that hostility escalated into 40 days of direct bombing that killed over 3,400 people. A ceasefire stopped the war 3 days ago. What happens in this specific room today determines whether that truce holds, or if the conflict enters a far more destructive phase. When the ceasefire was announced, Iran's Supreme National Security Council issued a statement to its public. They claimed they had achieved nearly all of their war objectives and, quoting directly from official state media, driven the enemy into a state of historic helplessness and enduring defeat. The exact same night, President Trump posted on Truth Social that America's core objectives had been met, claiming Iran had undergone a very productive regime change. Iran is claiming victory while standing in the rubble of a 40-day bombing campaign. The United States is claiming victory while insisting there will be absolutely zero uranium enrichment going forward. Both sides are walking into Islamabad claiming they already won. That means their starting positions are wildly incompatible. The gap between them is a canyon, and making any real compromise is highly dangerous for leaders who have already promised their base total victory. You can see the scale of this gap in Iran's 10-point proposal. They want the complete withdrawal of all U.S. combat forces across the Middle East. They want the full lifting of every UN and IAEA sanction, plus financial reparations for the bombing. The United States publicly rejected almost all of those points. Vice President J.D. Vance dismissed the circulated plan entirely, saying it looked like it was submitted by a random Yahoo in Iran. He explicitly warned that the current ceasefire is a fragile truce, and the truce is already straining on the ground in Lebanon. Iran's parliament speaker stated that Israel's ongoing strikes there are a direct violation of the ceasefire's very first clause. Israel's prime minister stated clearly that the ceasefire never included Lebanon. On the night the truce with Iran was announced, Israel launched its largest coordinated strike on Lebanon to date, killing at least 182 people and wounding hundreds more. So, with active massacres via proxies and public demands that the other side outright rejects, why are they even sitting down in Islamabad? Because both sides need an exit strategy more than they can publicly admit. Inside Iran, 40 days of bombing destroyed their air force, degraded their missile infrastructure, and knocked the country's internet offline for 40 consecutive days. Their major industrial sites, like the massive Khuzestan steel complex, require extensive, year-long repairs. This chart illustrates the toll on the nation's economy. Israeli military assessments estimate the war damaged 85% of Iran's petrochemical export capacity. The newly instated supreme leader is managing an economy that is physically devastated. The United States is facing its own domestic pain. In just 6 weeks, gas prices spiked 39%. Mortgage rates climbed to 6.38%, and the Dow dropped 10%. President Trump's approval rating among his Republican base fell 9 points as a direct result of these economic pressures. For both administrations, finding a way out is a matter of political survival. Pakistan, sharing deep cultural ties and borders with Iran while maintaining heavy strategic alignment with the U.S., is the only mediator positioned to bring them to the table. The makeup of the delegations tells us a lot about the actual intent behind the bravado. The U.S. team includes Vice President Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner. These men are brokers and deal-makers, not military hardliners. Iran is sending Abbas Araghchi, its most experienced diplomat, alongside its parliament speaker, a former Revolutionary Guards commander. They signal that they want a deal, but one negotiated from a posture of military strength. This data visualization shows the core technical hurdle. Iran holds stockpiles of uranium enriched to 60. If they can solve this specific nuclear math, the rest of the dirhams become solvable. If they insist on keeping their current positions, the ceasefire will fail, and they have very little time to figure it out. The structure of the ceasefire contains a strict 2-week window. They have 11 days until April 21st to produce the framework of a permanent peace deal before U.S. military operations resume. Global markets are already betting against them. The Strait of Hormuz remains largely restricted to alternate shipping routes, coordinated by Iranian armed forces, and oil prices have remained volatile and elevated since the ceasefire was announced. The stakes are immense. A finalized deal would normalize US-Iran relations after a half-century of hostility, effectively rewriting the geopolitical architecture of the entire Middle East. If the talks collapse, the bombs fall again. A fragile 6-week conflict will metastasize into a far longer, far more devastating regional war. Decades of proxy battles, sanctions, and assassinations have led to exactly this moment. The future of the region now comes down to what two delegations can agree to in a single hotel room in Pakistan.